it can be pretty overwhelming when you first start with music production because there is so much equipment out there. But what do you really need as a beginner? What do you need to purchase in order to start? Multiple viewers consulted me via Skype on what to buy for music production when you first start. So I thought, let's make a video about it and answer all the questions that you asked me. I will tell you step by step what you need, what you actually need, and what's fluff and what's BS. Because this topic is pretty extensive, I will link up a blog post that I wrote about the topic so you can sit down and easily, quietly read all about it in your own pace. The link is in the description. Let's begin with the bare essentials. You absolutely need a computer. There's no way around that. You don't necessarily need a new computer or a separate computer. It's maybe handy, but it's more a luxury. And the reason why you want to have a new computer is because it's quicker and it makes you make music faster. An optimal configuration will cost you about $1,500 without a screen. A better one will cost you about $3,000 without a screen, but with cheaper models you can also make music. You can probably use your old computer. If the computer is less than 10 to 8 years old, it will probably suffice. Won't be quick, but it will suffice. Mac or PC, that doesn't matter that much. If you do want to buy a new computer, what computer do you need? Do you need a laptop or a desktop, or which processor, how much memory? I made a special video about that. The link to that video is in the description below. You also absolutely need music production software. Software to make music is called a DAW, a digital audio workstation. If you choose a DAW, make sure that you check the technical requirements on the side of the software maker to make sure that your computer fits that profile so you can run the software. There are commercial DAWs and there are free DAWs. I suggest you check out a free DAW when you first start, and when you advance you can later switch to a commercial DAW. A lot of beginners mistake an audio editor for a DAW, but they have a different target. Both process indeed audio, but an audio editor is more targeted towards manipulating and recording music, or for example your podcast. But a DAW is more targeted towards creating music, for example with the suffice synthesizer. And in most DAWs are audio editor features included. For example, an audio editor has no knowledge of BPM and the DAW does. A DAW allows you to place a hi-hat on the offbeat of a song, for example, while in an audio editor it takes you some time and some tricks in order to do that. Technically, you could make music with an audio editor if you only use samples and recordings, but you also don't use a screwdriver to hammer a nail into your wall. You could technically, but it's just not the right tool for the job. There is no such thing as the best DAW, because it's all a matter of taste. And if there was such a thing as the best DAW, then everybody would use it, but that's simply not the case. My preferred DAW of choice is Studio One, but there are a lot of good DAWs other good DAWs out there. Famous are FL Studio, Logic, or Ableton Live, for example. The prices of DAWs vary immensely from, let's say, 200 euros or dollars to 800. But the price is absolutely no measurement for quality or feature set. For example, Logic is 200 euros and Ableton Live is 800, but the quality is about the same and the feature set is also about the same. But when I look at Studio One, for example, that's 400 euros, and Pro Tools, that's once, and Pro Tools is $1,500 per year. But Studio One has more features than Pro Tools. Commercial DAWs, however, tend to have more features than free DAWs. I made a special video about free DAWs and about commercial DAWs. I suggest you check them out if you are interested. The links are in the description. You absolutely need some kind of high quality speaker and or headphones. Because The quality of the speakers in your laptop, for example, or built in your computer or your television or your phone, are not able to display all the frequencies. For example, frequencies below 200 Hz on a laptop are not displayed. And that's the bass, and you need to be able to hear the bass when you produce music. Monitor speakers are so-called near-field speakers. They are designed to be listened at a close range and generally lack the power to fill a whole big room with sound. Monitor speakers for music production are designed to have a flat frequency response and display a wide range of frequencies. A flat frequency response meaning that all frequencies are represented equally in the frequency spectrum, so no dip or boost in the high or the low end. Of course, the expensive ones tend to do a better job at that than the cheaper ones. For example, the Genelex professional speakers are very good, but they will set you back $1,500 per speaker. A headphone is not a speaker replacement, but an addition. It's a perfect tool to produce late at night, for example, if you don't want to disturb the neighbors or your girlfriend sleeping in the bedroom. Headphones give a perfect representation of the sound in the stereo spectrum. The problem with that is that it is never the case in real life. Your left speaker will always bleed a little bit in your right ear, and your right speaker will always bleed a little bit in your left ear. And also, headphones tend to represent sounds a little bit differently, and which is never the case with regular speakers. So it's fine for creating a melody, for example, headphones, but mixing, where you tend to do gain staging and where's the sound in the stereo field, don't do that on headphones. There is software out there that emulates this bleeding in your ears, but it's still not the regular real-life speaker deal. There are two types of headphones. There are open back headphones and closed back headphones. I have such a closed back headphone here. The most regular, normal headphones have a closed back. That's the industry standard. But if you're mixing, for example, and want a better representation of the sound, it's better to have an open back headphone. The downside of a open back headphone is that if someone is sitting next to you on the couch, for example, they can hear exactly what you're listening to. For mixing it's better, but it still doesn't beat an open back headphone is better, but it still doesn't beat your monitor speakers. I have the Tonoy Reveal 802 monitor speakers. The link is in the description. I chose those speakers because they are very precise in the high end, but I have to admit they lack a little bit of punch in the low end. Another famous brand is KRK. They have exactly the opposite. They are not as precise in the high end, but they are way too bassy for my taste. Another good speaker brand to try is, for example, Pioneer or Yamaha. These speakers tend to have three parts. This is the tweeter for the higher sounds and a big speaker for the lower sounds. But there's also a space for the bass, because these kinds of speakers tend to place or move a little bit of air. The backside of these speakers has, of course, an input, and in this case these speakers have an unbalanced input and a balanced input. An unbalanced input is an input that has only two wires in which the music signal can travel. But the problem with that is that it can pick up unwanted noise. For example, of your mobile phone. I don't know if you ever stand too close to a speaker with your mobile phone, you hear that is an interference signal. A balanced input doesn't have that problem, or less of a problem, because it has an extra wire. There are balanced inputs like this jack connection, but this speaker doesn't support that. I connect the speakers via an unbalanced connection. In order to prevent that your speaker picks up too much noise, these cables need to be short. The longer the cable, then the cable will act as an antenna. The balanced input doesn't have that problem, or less of a problem, because there's an extra wire. In this case, this is the jack connection. This is an XLR connection. My sound card doesn't support an output of a balanced output over XLR. There is an aux connection on this speaker that is absolutely not standard for monitor speakers. I can link through one speaker with the other via a mini jack connection, and you have to select if this is the right or the left speaker, and here you can place your mini jack connection in, and this will output the signal to the other speaker. My speaker has the ability to also change the volume, and it's really handy if your monitor speaker has that feature. You can set the volume over here, and you can do a little bit of equalization. You can boost the high frequencies, or set it on neutral, or high cut the frequencies. And on the bottom of the speaker we have the power connection. And of course, this is the switch to switch between 120 volt and 220 volts. Please set it to 120 volts when you're in Europe. That you will do only once. And of course here the switch to switch it on or off. And this is an example of an unbalanced jack plug. When you have a balanced version, then there is a thingy over here, an isolation over here. So there are 3 parts in the connector. How you connect headphones depends a little bit on your computer and your situation. If you connect it directly to your computer or connect it via your sound card, we'll come back to sound cards in a minute. For example, most computers and phones, for example, have a mini jack connection, but when you want to connect it to a sound card, it probably has a jack connection or a maxi jack connection. In this case, this headphone has a converter, so you can connect them both. You can screw this converter right onto the plug. These converters, by the way, you can buy them separately, and they are pretty standard. One thing you have to be aware of, that monitor speakers are always sold separately. A good speaker is about $200 per speaker, and amazing ones are $1,500 and up. Then a sound card. Do you absolutely need a sound card for music production? I say no. The onboard sound card on your computer, and every computer laptop of the last 10 years has an onboard sound card, is probably just fine to start. But the reasons why you do want to have a sound card is, first of all, most monitor speakers only have an XLR or a jack connection, and you need to connect it somehow to your computer, and only a sound card does that. For a physical volume button, the Apple onboard sound card is only adjustable in steps. That's not always convenient. Also, it lags sometimes 5 seconds, and that's a really long time when your sound is too loud. If you want to record vocals, for example, with a condenser microphone, these are studio grade professional microphones that need a special 48-volt phantom power. Only specialized sound cards can give that. And last but not least, the designers of regular sound cards didn't have the music producer in mind. First of all, they boost or cut certain frequencies, and you don't want that as a music producer. You want a flat frequency response. And second of all, they never had low latencies in mind when they designed their sound cards. When you advance in music production, then I suggest, yes, buy a separate sound card. This is such a sound card. This is the Focusrite 2i2. And on the front side we have the connection for your headphones, and as you see, this is a maxi jack connection. There is a volume button for your headphones, the regular volume button for your monitor speakers. Over here we have the button for the 48 volt phantom power, so if you want to use your condenser microphone. There is over here a button for the direct monitoring. When you record vocals, for example, you want to hear your voice directly in your headphones. Direct monitoring does not go through the computer, because a computer adds latency to your signal. You don't want that with direct monitoring. You hear directly what is inputted in the sound card. Over here I have an input, and that can be a jack connection or an XLR connection for your guitar, for example, or your microphone. And if you use a condenser microphone, you can hook it up here and switch on the 48 volt phantom power. Then over here is the volume button. There is no real level meter in this sound card, but this ring will light up green when it's okay, when it receives a signal, and red if it clips, so if there's distortion in the signal. And you can switch here between the line or an instrument, because an instrument has less power, so it needs to amplify more. This is one, but this is the other. Those are two of the same connections. These are mono connections, by the way. So you can have a microphone for left, microphone for right. If you want to have both, you have to connect both. On the back side of at least this sound card, it depends totally on which sound card you have, how many inputs, how many outputs you have. There you have the jack connections, as I talked about earlier. I have two, one for the left speaker, one for the right speaker, and this is the USB connection, and this is the Kensington lock, so you can lock it to your desk, for example. Connect the left speaker, connect the right speaker, and connect USB. This sound card has only a USB connection, and it gets its power via the USB connection. A lot of sound cards don't have that option and have a separate power brick. And this is such an XLR connection, and this is my microphone, and I connect it to the sound card this way. I don't use the 48 phantom power because it's my voiceover microphone I use for my YouTube videos. Good sound cards are the Focusrite 2i2, Focusrite Scarlett 2i2 I have to say, and the Audient ID14. Before I had the 2i2 I had the ID14, and I was pretty happy with it. A good sound card will set you back $130. And an amazing one about $800 and up. I did a review of the Focusrite Scarlett 2i2 and the Audient ID14. The links to those videos are in the description below. What are the most used sound cards by music producers, and what do you have to look out for when you buy a sound card? I made a special video about that too. The link is also in the description. Then software plugins, or VSTs as a lot of music producers call them. With third-party plugins you can extend the functionality of your DAW. But if you need third-party plugins, depends entirely on your DAW. When I look at full versions of software like Studio One or Logic or Ableton Live, for example, those are pretty packed with plugins, and well, they do most of the heavy lifting. The reason why professionals use third-party plugins is because they provide a better sound, have more functionality, or are easier to use. The prices of plugins can vary very much, from $10 for a simple plugin to $1,500 like the Contact libraries. I won't dive into plugins much in this video. I made a video with my top 10 favorite plugins. You know the drill, the link is in the description. The microphone. Yeah, I talked about it earlier. Do you need a microphone? Well, logically, only if you want to record a voiceover or vocals. Most beginner music producers don't do that. I suggested this is a perfect upgrade. You have the best results with a condenser microphone like this, because these guys are extremely susceptible to the tiniest noises. And that is also the reason why they are in a cage, so they are less susceptible to trembling, for example. If you use these microphones, you need to use them on a stand, because if you hold them in your hand, you will hear the trembling of your hand in the microphone. For singing, these are perfect. These are connected with the XLR connection, and you connect them with a cable like this. This is one side, this is the other side. These have those 48-volt phantom power connections. When you want to record a podcast, you don't necessarily need such a big expensive microphone. A simple microphone like the one I have over there will suffice. This is the Rode NT1. If you want to record very clean vocals, this is one of the best microphones for about 200-300 euros out there. This one has an amazing sound. Just to make it clear, you need a 48-volt phantom power connection on your sound card when you use a condenser microphone. A good microphone, well, a good USB microphone is about 100 euros, and that simple microphone was about 80 euros, I think. But a really good one is about 200-300 euros, and you can go, of course, completely crazy over 1,000 if you want. Then a MIDI keyboard. Do you absolutely need a MIDI keyboard in order to produce music? Absolutely not. Is it handy to have? Absolutely yes. It's easier to transfer the melodies you have in your head and rhythms you have in your head in the computer. There are software simulators out there that you can type out the rhythm, for example, on your computer keyboard. Only I discovered that the travel of a regular keyboard does not lend itself very well for that purpose. A MIDI keyboard is also handy if you are a bad keyboard player just like me. It's really handy to have a MIDI keyboard that has full-size piano keys, because there are a lot of cheap MIDI controllers out there, MIDI keyboards I have to say, out there that have such small and tiny keys that it's not really usable. A piano has 88 keys, but I don't know about you, but here in my house I don't have much room to place a keyboard with 88 keys. I have had it and I tripped over it over and over again, so I sold it. Instead I opted for a keyboard with only 25 keys. The downside to this keyboard is you have to switch octaves. It's really easy to have available to you all those 88 keys. But in this case I don't, and you have to switch octave with a key on the side of a keyboard. A proper MIDI keyboard has touch sensitive keys, so it registers the velocity of a key press. You can switch it off in your DAW if you want, but it's nice to have, because if you use that, your melody sounds less robotic, because a human doesn't press every key equally hard, so it sounds more natural. There is another touch related technology when it comes to key presses, and that is called aftertouch. Aftertouch registers the velocity of a key after you pressed it. For example, when I press a button, it registers, when it has a touch sensitive key, it registers the velocity when I press it, but when I press it harder, then it can trigger something in your DAW, for example your pitch. So if you press a key and you press it harder afterwards, then the pitch will shift a little bit. That can give a special effect when you play a melody, for example. Aftertouch is also a nice feature to have, and also you can switch it off in your DAW if you don't like it. This is the CME X keys, but I'm not really happy with it. This thing was broken within a year. This button doesn't work, so I can't switch octaves anymore. No, I wouldn't recommend it. It looks nice with my Mac computer, but that's it. In the good old days, MIDI keyboards were connected to your computer via a MIDI connection, hence the name. Nowadays we have the protocol MIDI over USB, so most keyboards like this one has a USB, this is mini USB connection on it, so you don't have to look out for that. You can connect it directly to your computer. But if you have an old MIDI keyboard, you need a MIDI connection on your sound card. Most sound cards don't have that connection anymore. A good MIDI keyboard will start at about $100. Some music producers have MIDI controllers on their desks. That looks really nice, all those glowing buttons. Those machines help you to transfer drum patterns from your head easily into the computer. Native Instruments Complete is a very famous example, and Ableton Push. But for a beginner, yeah, it's handy to have, but you don't necessarily need it. So completely optional. I don't even have one. It's still on my Christmas list though, but weirdly enough, people are not that enthusiastic to buy me one because the price is about $500 to $600. From first-hand experience, I know that making music is extremely hard. And if you are serious and want to take it to the next level and want me to help you with that, go to dexterclark.com/courses, Dexter with 2 X's. The link is also in the description, of course. I compiled a course where I combined all my knowledge over the last few years, compiled it in one handy place, and I take you step by step through the whole process of making a song, from making melodies to mixing. Check it out on dexterclark.com/courses.